What if there was a safe space for you to explore artificial intelligence? What if there was a team of friendly professionals waiting to help you examine what you can do with AI in your courses? Welcome to the world of what if.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Cristian, and I am a multimedia specialist here at the Center for Online and Continuing Education. And today I'll be presenting on creating visuals with Claude. So before we get into anything, I just want to go over the overview for the agenda of today. So we're going to go through what is Claude, alternative ways to access Claude, how does Claude compare with other large language models, why should I use Claude, we're going to do a live demo of Claude, and then we're going to talk about the future of Claude with other applications. So what is Claude? Claude is a large language model, and this is directly from the website that is linked there, the homepage. Claude is a next generation AI assistant built by Anthropic and trained to be safe, accurate, and secure to do your best work. And that's one of the strengths of Claude, is that it's safe and ethical. With Claude, you can perform complex cognitive tasks using advanced reasoning, transcribe and analyze images and photographs, process multilingual content in real time, and generate code and also debug complex code bases. So if you've never used a large language model before, you might be confused as to how it works. Basically what it is you're giving a chat, and you input a prompt, and the large language model will input an output or output a result. So particularly in today's conversation, I want to focus on the last point, which is generating code to generate or inputting code to generate visuals. And I think that's one of the strengths that Claude has compared to other large language models. So if you click on that link, it'll take you to the home page, but it is going to ask you to create an account. Now, the particular thing about Claude is that to create an account, you need to input your phone number. So if you don't want to do that, there are ways around that. So alternative ways to access Claude are through these three websites, which they're basically like hosts of multiple large language models. So it's kind of like a hub of multiple AI websites. So Monica, Chat LLM by Abacus AI, and Poe, they will ask you to create an account, but you won't have to input your phone number. So if you're not comfortable inputting your phone number, these are different ways to access Claude. For today's presentation, we'll be using the registration through Claude. So how does Claude compare with other large language models? We have a chart here that shows the different models that are kind of like the most popular right now. So Claude, GPT-4, Llama, and Bard, they all came out in 2023. And what I want to focus on is on Claude's strengths, which is the safety and ethical focus. So with all the controversy that surrounds AI and large language models, there's always a concern of where is this training data coming from to function this large language model? And I think Claude takes the approach of being safe and ethical. So that's, with all the controversy that surrounds AI, they kind of lessen the concern of being safe and ethical. So why should I use Claude? So as I said, it serves as a leading example of an AI designed for ethics and safety. If we link here to the FAU.ai website, it's the OIT, the Office of Information Technology, classifies Claude as data level 4, which data level 4 is a non-sensitive information that is not protected by the university or by law. So even though Claude is an ethical and safe large language model, it's still a good measure to be safe with what you're inputting. So, if this large language model that is prioritized on safety requires, like, from the FAU to, be sensitive with, or be careful with what information you upload, I think across the board, it's something to be mindful of. But Anthropic prioritizes, AI safety and ethics. A second thing why we should use Claude is research and literature review purposes. So particularly with Claude's newest model, which is Claude 3.7 Sonnet, which is linked there, you'll be able to see all the release from the article from Claude or from Anthropic that shows all the new features. Particularly, one of its newest features has a 200,000 context window. And so what that means is you're able to upload around 500 pages of text, which translates to about 100 images. And Claude will analyze all that information, and whatever input prompt you give it, it'll analyze all of that. It also excels in STEM prompts, so we'll see how we can use it particularly in coding. And there's one more thing, but yeah, it's a pretty advanced model, which has beaten other large language models in some benchmarks. In its reasoning, it's a hybrid reasoning model. That was what I was missing. So Claude will take a moment to analyze your prompt that you give it, and it'll generate a more refined output, a more accurate output. And then the last reason is to create visual representations using 3.js, which is a JavaScript library. And that's kind of like what I particularly like about Claude, is that you're able to generate code with your input, and it'll display it like in that same browser, better than other large language models. So we're going to get started with our demo, but before that, I want to go into kind of like the homepage and how the user interface of Claude looks like. So let's go over here. So if you haven't created an account by now, now is your time to do so. So we're going to hop into Claude, which is right here. Let me zoom in. So this is what the homepage looks like after you create an account. We have our chat box. So this is where you input all your prompts. On the bottom, we have the model. So if we click on this dropdown, you'll see the different models that are available. And then there's also something called thinking mode. So Claude has two different thinking modes. The default is normal, but we also have extended, which this is from Claude's newest model, from Claude 3.7 Sonnet, that allows you to input your prompt, and it generates a thinking mode that is best for math and coding challenges. So this is good for, like I said, having Claude think before it outputs a response, particularly in math and coding prompts. If we go to the right, we have this dropdown called Choose Style. And these are basically the format that Claude will output its response. So normal is a default, concise are for shorter responses, explanatory, this is for like breaking down concepts. So particularly, I find this helpful for breaking down concepts. Claude will break it down in an educational kind of like format. We're not going to do this today, but I do suggest checking that out, because it is a good breakdown of any concept that you input. And then formal. On the bottom, we have attachments that you can upload. You can upload screenshots. You can connect to GitHub and Google Drive. So, and then on your left here, if you go to Claude, these will be your chats. You can do projects, which are, I think it's for like collaborative things, and then all your different chats. So that's the UI. That's kind of how the UI looks like. So let's go back to our presentation. And by the way, if you are just now joining us, if you have a question about anything, feel free to raise your hand. We actually have a mic here in the room so that our online audience can listen to your questions. And if you have a question online, you can input it into the chat, and that question will be relayed to us here so we can answer your question. So our prompts, we have 3 prompts that we're going to be demoing today. These are what they look like. If you go into the presentation, you'll be able to copy and paste that prompt and input it into your account. and we'll be able to see how it looks like. So well, let's take the first prompt. It says, generate an interactive infographic from the table. Make it look visually appealing. Use those coding languages in a single HTML file. So what I want to do is I want to generate an infographic from the table that I showed in an earlier slide. So if I go here to that slide, how does Claude compare with other LLMs? What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a screenshot of this, and I'm going to use that to upload that into Claude. So I take a screenshot, I go back to Claude, and I'm going to paste it here. And now I'm going to go to my prompt slide and then copy this prompt to generate an interactive infographic from this table, make it look visually appealing using those coding languages in a single HTML file. And let's see what happens. So as this is loading, let me zoom out a little bit. I do want to highlight the something that Claude is kind of like the use of Claude. Claude isn't a image generator. You can't generate like images that you would normally see. Like when I think of an AI that produces an images, like it's like an Unreal, kind of like hyper-realistic image. What Claude excels in is on code-based graphics, code-based graphic outputs. So you're not gonna, if you ask Claude to create an image of like the sky, it'll generate either a vector of that or some sort of code-based output of the sky. You won't get like a realistic image. If you ask it for like a video, you won't get that either. So I think that's just a good distinction to note that Claude excels in code-based graphics outputs and not like actual image outputs. So we have our output that finished already. So we see here on the left, this is the output that it gave us. So here's your interactive infographic comparing the major AI languages. These are the different features. So it shows interactive card view, table view, color-coded, and hover effects. So AI language models comparison. On the right, this shows your output, and you're able to view like a preview or the code. So these two tabs you can switch between and kind of see the actual code and then the preview of that code. So if we click here, the two tabs, we have card view and then table view. And this is kind of like the table that I had initially pasted, but now I'm able to visualize it in a different way. So here it shows the year that it was released, the parameters, strengths and weaknesses, the training data, and it's all categorized by the language model. So I think it's pretty cool because I'm not a good coder. I'm not really an expert in that. And I didn't have to visually design this, right? Like this just was from one single prompt. And I didn't even upload like an Excel document or any document that I could reference of. It's just from a screenshot. So I think that's just pretty interesting to highlight that this was able to generate, without any, particular coding experience or visual design experience. So that looks pretty cool. If we go back to our presentation, we have here the result. This is just basically another version that I had created. So you can click there and you'll be able to see the result that it came out. But we'll be using that for the next prompts. But yeah, so again, didn't have to design much. And now I have something a little bit more interesting to look at rather than just a table. So that was our first prompt. Our second prompt is going to be a little bit more complex. We're going to generate an interactive visualization of the Mandelbrot set. So this is for like chaos theory and mathematics. I specifically requested it to use 3.js, which is a JavaScript library, and create a standalone HTML page, make it look visually appealing. So again, we're going to copy this and we're going to paste it. I want to open a new chat, so I'm going to go to the left and I'm going to do start new chat. Let me zoom in a little. And I'm going to paste my prompt, and we're just going to hit generate. I do want to highlight the differences between the free and the paid plans of Claude. So the free plan has a daily message limit. Also, the paid plans do, but the difference is that the free plan, you have about like 45 messages per day, and it might reduce it based on the demand of the server, of Claude. So that's kind of like the difference. You have more access to models with the paid plans. Like for example, the thinking mode the extended thinking mode, that is only available in the paid plans. So for that prompt, if you don't have the paid plan, you won't be able to submit it, but you'll still be able to view our example. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight just those differences because for our prompts, you are going to be able to generate an output, but there are some just some differences with the paid and the premium, or the free plan and the paid plan. So our prompt output finished and it generated. So this is what it looks like. So it says, I've created an interactive Mandelbrot visualization using 3.js. These are the different features. So it says we can click and drag to pan around, and we see that. There are 5 different color schemes, detail control for the slider, like the max iterations, and then reset the view. So if I click on the different color schemes, you can see how that looks like. And then I can even zoom in, and it's pretty precise. It won't zoom into infinity, but it does a good job. And I can even increase the number of iterations. So now I'm looking at even more of the output. It's not perfect, but I didn't have to design this, right? I can't draw. I didn't have to code this in any way. I just inputted this prompt, and Claude took care of the rest. So I think that's pretty cool. Here you can see the directions on how to use it. And you know, if I'm taking a math course, I'm able to see this visually. I think it does a much better effect than to just, you know, talk about a description of text of the Mandelbrot set. I do want to point out that Claude does a better job in coding, at least in this example, because I did this using ChatGPT 4.0, which is the free model, and it didn't do a good job. And then I used the 0.1, which is a more precise model for coding, and it didn't do as interactive as a good job as Claude did. I don't have that example, but you can just trust my word that Claude, it does excel in these coding prompts. And as we mentioned in Claude 3.7 Sonnet, that's kind of like one of its strengths, its features. So that was our second prompt. And now let's go back. We have our third prompt. Here it says, generate an interactive 3D simulation of a satellite orbiting in space. Use p5.js, which is another JavaScript library. Include real-time controls and make it look visually appealing. Do not use any other dependencies. So now we get the idea. We generate a prompt, or we create a prompt, and then we input it here. So what I've found is, I'm going to go create a new chat. Sometimes with prompts, you want to be detailed, and the more information that you give it, the better the output. But for my particular case, I found it that with these kind of instructions, Claude was able to generate what I was looking for. So there are different ways that you can go about generating in large language models. The more detailed, the better, but sometimes the more details, the different output it might generate. That's just from my experience. Maybe it's particular to this model because it's Claude's newest model, but yeah, just wanted to point that out. So we're gonna hit generate. Oh, I forgot something. Let me go back and then paste. I wanted to select the thinking mode because since this is a more complex task for coding, especially since it's a 3D simulation, I want Claude to take its time to think about its output. So I'm going to select the extended mode, thinking mode, and now I'm going to hit generate. And since this will take a little bit longer, we have the result right here, magically. But we have our result. So let's click on that. So if we go here to the left, we have our output. So it's a 3D satellite simulation with p5.js. The features are that it's a realistic 3D satellite with solar panels. The Earth is there. Maybe you can't really see it because it's zoomed in a little bit. The stars and interactive camera controls. So if I click and drag with the mouse, I can rotate it in 3D. If I zoom in with the wheel, I can also view that. And then we have the different controls. So we can control the orbit speed, eccentricity, size of the Earth, and then camera distance. So I just generated this with a text prompt. Yeah.
Yes. So Philip wants to know, can you update the result or refine the prompt after the result like other LLM?
Yes, good question. Thank you for asking that. Yeah, you are able to refine and make adjustments to your prompt, to the output. Now, this is something that you'll see a little later. Some of the best practices for using Claude is you might run into the daily message limit if you're constantly refining your prompts. But a way around that is you just create a new prompt. So if you go here and create a new prompt, you might have to ask Claude for this current chat to summarize it and then copy that and paste it in the new chat. But yes, you are able to refine your results. And if you want to edit your prompt, you could. Where is it? Okay, so this is the one that we generated. But you can always go up here and then edit. And if you need to make changes, you can do so. Or I can say, hey, change the background color, for example, and it'll do that. But you will run into the daily message limit if you are using the same chat. That's just something to be aware of. So let's go back to this one. So this is what it looked like. And again, I didn't have to open a 3D software. I didn't have to design this. I didn't have to code this. I just inputted the prompt, and now I have a pretty interesting simulation of a satellite orbiting in space. So what's also cool is we can copy this code and make it a little bit bigger, because right now we're limited to Claude's output window. But if we go here to the code tab, we're able to view all of our code. But if we go to the bottom right, we have copy contents. So we can copy that, copy the contents of the code. And now if we open a HTML editor, in this case, I'm just going to use Notepad. I'm going to paste my contents. And now I'm going to save this file. And I'm going to call it orbit.html. Save. And now, if I open that file, now I can view it full screen. So now I'm not limited to Claude's working space. Now I can view this full screen, and it's a pretty cool, visualization. Same controls, etc. And because this was coded in HTML, I can copy this and upload it to. If you know a little bit more about coding, then you can let me know how you could copy this. But I know that since this is HTML, it doesn't require any complex coding requirements. It's just you can copy this pretty simply, and it uses this example had p5.js, but the previous one, the Mandelbrot one, used 3.js, which is it's basically a lightweight version to view 3D simulations in any web browser using WebGL. So that's why I'm saying that you can take this and upload it, and it's not going to be some heavy file. So that's pretty cool, right? I didn't have to, like I said, design anything in 3D, code this. It was just through a prompt. So, and then I did want to mention that if for some reason when you generate this prompt, you don't get a preview and you just get a code, that means that you might have to run this in a p5.js editor. But in this case, it did generate a preview for us. But all you would do if you're generating this and you don't have a preview tab is you copy your contents and you go to just any p5.js editor and you just copy. I don't think it is going to work here, but you just paste it here and you run your simulation. And yeah, it won't work here, but that's because we did have a preview. But yeah, that's just be mindful that if you don't get an actual preview, you can copy the code and then paste it into a p5.js editor. So this is the one that we had inputted at first. And just to look at it real quickly, we see very similar controls. We can't really see the Earth that well if I zoom out, but let's do our trick where we can copy the code and then save it in an HTML, just why not? Actually, we're gonna replace it and save, open the file, and now we're looking at the newest one. So this one looks even a little more realistic. Let me just a camera distance, and then pretty interesting. So this is the one that we had generated at first. So pretty neat. So let's go back here. So there are some additional prompts that you can check out. These were some that I was just practicing when I was doing it. And then on the bottom right, there is a link to the best practices for the usage limit from Anthropic. So as I was mentioning earlier, the free plan, even the paid plans do have a message limit. So those are some of the best practices, like I mentioned, starting a new chat, summarizing your chat, and things like that. That'll help you manage your messages or your prompts. And so some other applications to using Claude, what does the future look like? So right now, there's like a current talk about AI agents. So what that is they are multivariable software systems powered by artificial intelligence, and they're capable of performing a sequence of actions. So what that means is right now with large language models, if you give an input, it's going to generate an output, right? It's usually a linear process where, even if it's a multi-step process, everything will be linear. But with AI agents, what is the difference is that now the large language model will take actions autonomously. So now instead of, if you give it a prompt, it might think on its own and then contact maybe a different software or a different large language model, and it'll start communicating with those different tools, and instead of non-linear, instead of being linear. So I just think that's pretty cool. We can see that with common applications today, with autonomous vehicles, workflow automations, and virtual assistants. So that's kind of like the direction where Claude and AI agents are going. Claude 3.7 is Pure Insanity is a link that I got most of the content from. So this is from a YouTube video, but I think it does a good job at showing Claude 3.7 Sonnet's newest features. Claude Plays Pokemon, that's a Twitch live stream where it's from Anthropic that they host Claude 3.7 playing Pokemon. So it's pretty interesting. And then Blender MCP with Claude, you're able to control Blender, which is a 3D software, using Claude and MCP. So MCP stands for Model Context Protocol, which is basically an enhanced version of an API. And so that's kind of like where it's going. And then this is the news from yesterday, breaking news. I'm just kidding, not breaking news. But Claude now has a search feature. So you're able to, Claude is typically limited to, I think the most recent data that you can get from it is from October. So I think it's like 5-6 months of a delay. But with this new search feature, you're able to get a little bit more of latest information or recent information, which GPT-4 already has that, but Claude is just making sure that they are in the race of AI and large language models. So that's just also some news.